for the opportunity to be on this evening with you. Welcome to our show this evening. Welcome to Hidden in Plain Sight. We're thankful. We're so excited. We want to congratulate my colleagues for the launching of their book. We trust that everyone out there has got a copy and that you are have ordered your copy and that you're going to be receiving it real soon. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to reading about those things that are hidden in plain sight. We're happy this evening to have with us Miss Tasha M. Dyer, and we'll give Miss Dyer a moment to introduce herself. And then we also have Gerald Rogers with us, and we'll give him an opportunity to say some words of greetings on today. It's been a week. Miss Dyer, how are you today? Miss Dyer, are you there?
I am doing, ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome each and every last one of you all to Hidden in Plain Sight. I just want to welcome each and every last one of you all to our radio broadcast. I want to thank the 904 Rejoice Network for having us once again. And I want to thank each and every last one of you all who actually ordered. Just definitely wanted to make sure that we definitely say hello once again. So
yeah, we're actually happy to be here again. Big shout out to the Rejoice 904 Network, our listening audience. We're excited to be able to bring this information this afternoon. You absolutely are in for a treat. Once again, big shout out to our host, Bishop Harold Rollison. We thank God for allowing you to have the insight and the foresight to be able to bring such an amazing conversation that's needed to be held so that the people around the world can be enlightened and empowered, and particularly people of faith. So I'm excited to be here.
Amen, Mr. Rogers. Amen. Amen. We're glad that God given us the grace and the mercy to be on a worldwide broadcast. And we're thankful for everyone who's listening, especially those of you who are not in the United States but are able to listen with us today. We're so thankful for everyone who's listening from all across the country. We're thankful that we have this opportunity to even share with you. My mic's cutting in and out, and I think that's the weather, because I think a couple of us have experienced this on this broadcast. So we just ask that if you would just bear with us a little bit, and we're having a little technical difficulties that we can't. If I have technical difficulties, the only thing I know to do is turn my phone off and see what happens, because I'm not a tech. But I want to thank God. I want to present this to you, Mr. Rogers. This is your very own Hidden in Plain Sight cap. To kind of congratulate you on your book. And I have this one that's burning my hand. This one is orange and blue, and you might know somebody who would like this. Dr. Byfield, I think that's the colors of University of Florida. And I got his in his colors. I wasn't able to find any green and orange around Jacksonville. That's a rare color, but I'm sure my daughter would have some in there. She's a fellow alumni to Florida A&M. And Miss Dyer, she has a special one. I'm sure she'll be putting on. She has hers already. We just want to congratulate you guys on the book. I think that's a major accomplishment, because that a book is when you write a book, it lives even after you are gone on, and the worms and the ants have taken care of your body, and you're in glory somewhere. That book will still be here on somebody's shelf and can be passed on to you for generations to come. So we're thankful that you guys have put that in the book, so generations can be blessed by what has happened between you guys and that the information that God put in your hearts and you put it on paper. So we're glad to have this opportunity to be here this evening. We want to talk to you about being in position. We want to take a text. Mr. Rogers suggested a text that we utilize to substantiate what we're about to say tonight, and that's in John chapter 10 and verse 10. And let's see here if I can find it. A thief comes only to steal and to kill and to destroy. I have come that you may have life and have it abundantly. Is that the scripture?
Absolutely. That is the absolute scripture that we know that the A part of the verse, obviously, we all have an adversary, right? So meaning that there are things that externally that we'll never have control over.
That's verse 9. Thief comes and the robber comes to steal and kill.
But I have come that you may have life and have it more abundantly. And that life, you know, it starts on the inside and it's reflected on the outside, but you have to be in position to be able to receive both, you know, the spiritual aspect and the natural aspect. And quite often, unfortunately, in the African American culture, there's been a disconnect when it comes to experiencing or getting in position to experience financial wealth. And so those are some of the things that I definitely pray that we'll be able to articulate, kind of dive in. Definitely want to make sure our other colleagues get an opportunity to just kind of share their thoughts on how and why that's important, and you know what's been hidden in plain sight. You know, we have an opportunity to reveal that, because that is a part of the DNA for the believer. You know, that we should be living the abundant life in every aspect, not just spiritually, but there should be some manifestation on this side in this life before we depart from the earth.
I certainly believe that. When I thought about what you had expressed, I thought about there was a woman with an issue of blood, and she had to push through to get in position so Jesus could bless her. There was a lame man whose friends had to get him in position. They brought him through the rooftop to get him in a position to be blessed. And then there was a thief whose enemies put him in position to ask Jesus to bless him. And then there was a woman with an issue with a woman who was a widow woman who only had some meal and oil, and her life situation put her in a position for Elijah to come and be a blessing to her. And I think those are some of the things that we've been emphasizing, pushing our way through whatever's in our way so we can get in position to access this blessing that we're talking about each and every Tuesday. The woman pushed her way through the crowd after being sick for 12 years. She could have used that as an excuse. I can't go out like this. I'll never get to him. But she pushed because of her persistence. She pushed her way through that. And I think that that's what we have to do, because as we introduce this process to individuals, sometimes they're discouraged because they see so many things crowding the way, and they allow those things to impact them as to whether or not they even try. Miss Dyer, have you ran across anybody as we try to do our power stars with them who just don't feel like they could do this? And they began to enumerate things, reasons why they can't do this process.
Absolutely, Bishop, absolutely. And the reason behind that is because of just what society has given us, or you know, what society kind of shares with us as far as what we can do and what we cannot do. The limitations that's put on, you know, kind of going along the things that we've been talking about. And just as you use the woman with the issue of blood, the thing about it, even with her, you know, there is an understanding that she pushed through. She eliminated excuses. She kept going. Those are the things that you always want to be focused on. Those are the things, you know, she had a goal. She made a decision. She knew what she wanted, and that's what she was going to do. And that's where we always have to be. Because if we allow society to tell us what it is that we're going to have, or what it is we can do and what we cannot do, you think about it, even with the women's movement that I have. You know, the Women Teach Forest is a part of Be Your Own Bank. So one of the things that we're doing is we're doing gratitude. We're focusing on the positive. We're focusing on those things. And that's literally, you know, it's gratitude twice a day. Gratitude, and your affirmations. What is it that you're affirming that you want to manifest in your life? Because one of the things that we've been taught, even as women, is that you want to vent. You want to, you know, you want to get it off your chest. You want to write it out in a diary. And when you really understand spiritually what that does and the energy that manifests, and you understand the energy that's manifested, you know, even from the law of attraction, you don't want to live in that energy. And that's why we put so many limitations on ourselves. That's because we create that energy. We create that atmosphere. We create that environment. But when you begin to focus on the things that you desire in life, and you begin to focus on the things that you want to manifest, those things will fade away. And then you will start realizing that what's around you and what's manifesting in your life are the things that you desire and the goals and the accomplishments that you want to accomplish.
That's very interesting that you would say that, because there are what I like to call, there's some principles or laws that God has given. If we would focus on them, it would guarantee success. And I say guarantee because I believe that success is predictable. And it's predictable if we understand God's rules of success and we follow them, we will be successful. You notice what God said to Jeremiah when he told him to keep the book of the law on your lips, meditate on it day and night, and be careful to do everything that's written in that law, and you will make your ways prosperous and have good success. And notice what he says. He says, if you utilize these laws, you will make yourself successful, not God. He's giving you the law. If you follow the law, you will be successful. He said he will put means for you to be successful in your reach. And these means are understanding these laws. And if you apply these laws, you will be successful. It's like the law of sowing and reaping. You can throw a seed on the floor and it'll be there 20 years and it won't catch root, because the law says it needs to go in the ground and you need to water it, and the seed will come up no matter who plants it. And so we learn to apply God's laws of success, we will be successful. And when we do that, we position ourselves for success.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, you have to put that work in. You have to, you know it, God ordained it, it's declared and decreed, and now you just have to put that work in. You have to take those steps. So I'm in complete agreement with that. And if you want something to manifest in your life, you cannot just sit back and wait for it to happen. You have to get up and go get it. You have to put some work in. So you have to.
You have to position yourself. And sometimes if you're around the right people, as I mentioned earlier, there was this lame man that had been lame for years, and his friends were enlightened enough to assess his situation and offer him an opportunity to be blessed. And they picked him up and carried him and positioned him for healing. It's so important that the people around us are totally quality people who will not allow us to lay their lane and not encourage us to do better. And so what we're offering is an opportunity to be around people who will motivate, encourage, and show us the way to be improved and to be blessed. Now, whether we don't want to take advantage of that, that's up to us. And so we want to share some stuff today that will give people just that opportunity to apply, share with them some rules of success, share with them some information, and I pray that you would take advantage of it. I'm sorry, Mr. Rogers, did Ms. Dye steal your sermon?
No, she's that's what we enjoy about the collective consciousness. And I'm sure Dr. Bythewood has some intel and insight that he want to add to this commentary.
Is he on now? Is he on?
Yes.
Yeah, I've been on the whole time, sir. I thought you knew that. I apologize.
No, I didn't know you were there.
Yes, sir.
I was trying to act like I was you. I got
saw,
you this hat. You saw that hat?
yes.
And you didn't say, wow, I like that. You didn't say, ooh,
And
those wonderful colors.
the reason why I didn't say I love it was because I was caught up in the image of the worms and ants consuming my body.
Oh my God.
However, I absolutely appreciate that gift. That's a very special gift. But I joke with it. But you're right. We do have an opportunity through the written word to be able to have our message continue beyond generations, and that really was something I never thought about. So thank you for saying that. So yes, Mr. Rogers, I appreciate you letting me chime in. I think that we're on to something that's really important, because oftentimes people have hidden beliefs. And just the way that woman with the issue of the blood pushed through to Jesus, there are people who don't realize that they're pushing themselves, that they're pushing themselves away from Jesus instead of toward him. And they're doing the opposite of what she did. She did not let her condition keep her from touching the hem of his garment. But sometimes we let our condition keep us from feeling worthy enough to latch on to that hem. And I know that sometimes when I'm exposing people to this vehicle, when I'm exposing them to this information that has been hidden in plain sight, oftentimes they make statements that show that they're pushing themselves away. And I'll give you a fresh one from last night. A dear friend, grew up with her, known her since I was in the 8th grade. And she said, I have learned that if it sounds too good to be true, then it is. And that was a statement that really saddened me, because in that belief structure, when there's so much more of her life that she hasn't experienced, she's already predetermined all of the opportunities that she's going to see in her future have to fall into that belief structure. So my point is very simple, that what we're doing is so important, and we need to understand that there are people who are pushing themselves away from Jesus based on their belief system.
Wow. Wow. And that's so very true. Push instead of pushing. And sometimes we have to just push because we know that we want something different. We want something different to happen for us. And we just have to push. The other night, I was up all night long going through some workshops and whatnot, just trying to find ways to motivate and encourage folk. And I was so into it, I looked up and it was 5 o'clock. So I turned on Miss Dyer, and Miss Dyer said, the market is moving slow, it's sleep. It's gonna wake up after a while, waiting on the announcements. And I had already checked the European market at 3 when it opened, and she was right. It was like watching wet paint dry. And you got to be determined that can't discourage you, because you have one day where it's not working like you thought it should, and you have shifted to make sure that you can participate in what you anticipated. And so we have to learn. That's called persevering. That's one of God's laws of success. You have to be willing to persevere and push your way through and be patient.
Correct.
To make sure that you stay in position, because you become impatient and you find yourself out of position.
Correct.
And so, you just got to be willing to do that. And so Nehemiah is so close to me that he said you got to stay focused, and God's laws already have their result is already inherent in the law.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to be willing to watch it manifest. The idea of whatever man sow, that so shall he also reap. That the end of the law is that if you sow, you will reap. If you do the necessary work that it takes to sow a seed, you will reap. And so you have to have what we call belief for that to happen. And so I'm just excited about what we're talking about today. And I'm hoping that somebody will grab hold of this and believe and take and run with it. Now,
so Bishop Rollinson, I'd like to make another comment about why what you're saying is so pivotal. What you're saying is that this book can go to generations in the future.
Uh-huh.
But what we're also saying is that we have some beliefs that come from generations in the past. So I'd like to share with our listening audience how the cherry blossoms study is so important in understanding one of the reasons why we are like this. A study was done where they looked at laboratory mice and they exposed laboratory mice to eating of cherry blossoms. And when the mice would eat the cherry blossoms, they would give them an electric shock. So very simple procedure, eat the cherry blossom, get a shock. So obviously the mice began to identify the cherry blossom with the shock. In other words, every time I eat of this cherry blossom, I will feel pain. So there were various bodily functions that were affected, heart rate, anxiety, all types of things that they measured in these mice because of the shock that went along with eating the cherry blossom. Well, Bishop, what they did was they decided to do a study on the children of the mice. So to make sure that you guys are really with me, we're talking about the grand mice. The mice had children who had children, and they studied them. So what they did with those grand mice, Bishop, was they simply introduced the smell of a cherry blossom. Did not make the mice eat it, did not put it in their cage. They simply introduced the smell of cherry blossoms to these grand mice who did not participate in the shock experiment. And immediately their bodies began to react. Anxiety, elevated heart rate, all of the things that the mice who actually were shocked experienced, these grand mice experienced it too, just because of the smell. So what that says to us is that there are generations of scenarios, generations of situations, generations of pain, generations of heartache, generations of poverty that we have experienced that are in our DNA. And we've never even seen it. We've never even visually been there, but it still remains in our DNA. So we have to understand that we have to dig deep and put ourselves in a position where we take the steps to know that we deserve this wealth. We deserve this abundance because we never know what type of things are laying dormant in our DNA as a result of our past experiences.
Wow. You know what you made me think about? I for a long time, I thought that the bipolar was a genetic issue because I counsel with so many people who in their family, there were multiple people in families who had issues with bipolar. And I was reading in my, I sitting in my doctor's office waiting for my appointment a few years ago. And in the article I was reading, it said that bipolar is environmental and that we create the environment in our families where from generation to generation, there's some of the same elements in the way we conduct the environment in our family that people become bipolar because of their is inherent in families because families continue to behave the same ways over generations or after generation. And you're saying that grandchildren or grandmice were shocked with the smell. And so we have to be careful about the things that we speak. Our children learn our language, they learn our reactionary behavior, and they pass it on to grandchildren. And if those behaviors are the kinds of behavior, like you say, that produce poverty, then we're passing the concept of poverty on to our children. It goes from generation to generation. And so people say, like you said, if it's too good to be true, then it's not true. The possibility of you being a millionaire is too good to be true, so it's not true. And what we don't understand is we don't know what we don't know because we think that you have to work hard to get money in America. And hard work, I don't know very many people who worked hard all their life and got rich.
So Bishop, is that a word that we could use? Because I believe, based on what Dr. Bythewood just shared with us, that word makes people flinch as well. Because we all are theologians. We are the good ones or bad ones, and then sometimes we do not appropriately apply the verse of scripture where money does answer of all things, but then some kind of way, if specifically from a cultural standpoint, we've been led to believe that money is evil. But I believe the word says that the love of money is the root of all evil. So how do we take these misnomers and eradicate and erase the roots of those thought processes? It is now 2020, and we've been shouting, we've been dancing and praying to God, but at what point are we to become activated? Because we are in position to receive, but then we have to also be in position to do the work. So what is it that needs to take place that we need to be able to march forth? Because I think that's one of the things, and I've heard you say it on numerous occasions, you can sow, but then there's some work that's required. So how do we begin to elevate ourselves, our listeners, to the point where, you know, there's also responsibility to take action? Because when the children of Israel were in the wilderness, God did everything. But when they entered into the promised land, then they were now responsible for fighting while they were in the land. So how do we come to that point and get away from those cherry blossom scents, thinking that we don't have to put the work in and that someone owes us something?
Wow. That's a great question. I like the analogy you use of Israel coming forward out of the wilderness. You know, that generation that came out of the wilderness had never experienced having to sow and plant, because the food fell from, I call it chicken and biscuits fell by day. And all I had to do is get up early in the morning, reach out the door and get enough to last for that day. The shoes didn't wear out. And now when they get into the promised land, no more chicken and biscuits out of heaven. And God says, now you gotta plant your food. You gotta take care of your cattle. You gotta work now. You gotta do some work. And so that's a part. And I think we have to redo our thinking. You know, I tell you all the time, as we mentioned the Nehemiah passage, when Nehemiah and those guys, when they came out of Babylon captivity, they wrote Proverbs to recondition the people who had been in Proverbs, because you had a generation or so of folk who were up there in captivity and never been free to think like God's people. And so now the idea of work is in Proverbs, that you gotta work. And so I grew up a country boy, and so you know, that was just part of what we did. So it's natural for me to think like that. It's natural for me to see stuff being planted and the stuff coming up. But for those of you who grew up in Tampa, then that may not be that might be something you're very familiar with. You know, so we have to take the time to learn. We have to read. That's why we have books. And today, you know, we have other things that we can videos and whatnot that we can show in concert with expanding people's thoughts and understandings, and being able to put in context scripture so they would understand the idea of sowing. Because I was showing a guy the other day, I said, man, you know, I've had a lot. I don't have as much as I used to have. You know, I decided that I'm going to sow my way back to the prosperity that I once had. And that's by finding people to give to who can't give anything back to you. So see that sowing that we're talking about. So most people give somebody something. I'll loan you something because one day you may have to loan me something. But if there's no possibility of that person, you ever seen that person again, or that person being able to reach in their pocket next week and bless you back, then, you know, that's no more than what the winos do. You know, the winos let each other kill a Kona. You know, they let each other have a swig or smoke or a cigarette. You know, so how does it elevate us above that kind of relationship with people? Well, we can just simply bless people just because we can, you know, and that's the kind of sowing that God responds to. And so when I see you guys getting up every morning at 5 o'clock, I'm gonna admit I don't get up every morning. I wake up, but I don't get up. And I was talking to a young man today. He said, you know, I got a laptop, but I need to get another kind of computer, because I try to do my work in the bed and I find myself going to sleep. I said, yeah. I say, well, do you think the desktop gonna help you get up out of the bed? I said, that gotta be a transformation in your mind where you know that you got to get this work done, because at the end result is you're gonna get something else that you want even more. And so you know, when you have that kind of mindset, then you move forward. You do something different. You do something to get something. That's sowing. You see, the young man knows that he understands talking to me today that if you want something, you got to do something. And so you do this so something else will manifest. You want to change what's going on around you. And so you make the sacrifice by doing one thing because you know something else is going to manifest that you want even more. Did we freeze up? Mr. I?
I'm still here, Bishop.
Okay. Go ahead, Doc.
Okay, I just had to actually change my internet. So I actually was having a connection issue. But I just wanted to, based on what you were just saying about sewing, one thing that I definitely can point out is the fact that, you know, in the military, I get it all the time. Well, you're conditioned for this. You did this. And yes, I did, but it was a knockout drag fight for me to get up in the morning and be in a formation, meeting before the meeting as an officer, you know, 6 a.m., which means that I had to have my children up and out ready before all of those things. And so that I always had that affirmation, or I always had that declaration that I was not a morning person. It is something I had to fight to do each and every single day. Now, you're talking about sowing, we're talking about giving. The testimonies is what gets me up. The joy of seeing someone break those curses that we were just talking about, that's what gets me up. So when you look at what is manifesting and what's transpiring, that's what gets me up, right? That's what moves me in the mornings. That's why I'm up at 5 o'clock, because when you can literally see that someone's life is being changed, or you can see that something is manifesting in someone's life, that's what gets me up in the morning. And so it's not even a thought. I used to always have to have an alarm clock. I used to have all of these things. That's not even a requirement for me anymore. It's just natural, and I just get up. And so now we're here because we're changing lives. And so when we say 1 million families financially educated and impacted, that's what we declare and decree. And that's what we're looking to manifest. That's what we're looking to transpire and happen in individuals' lives. So that's what excites us. And that's the type of sowing, you know, we're sowing into other people's lives, because this information has been hidden in plain sight. People haven't been aware of it. They didn't know about it. And to break those curses, to see testimonies, to see people actually understand that they can create their own value, that's exciting for us. That's what moves us. So that's where we are.
Wow, that's absolutely amazing. That you can do that kind of sacrifice. And as you said, you declare it and decree it, but simply saying those words, like you're saying a abracadabra or something like that, you know, that's witchcraft unless you're going to do the work. And so you're willing to do the work to make the million families come into reality. And so sometimes people just say, "Oh, I declare and decree," and they don't do anything. That's different from what they've been doing. And so, you know, it's not like, you know, you declare and decree and it's just a poof, is a magic potion or something like that. God is not into magic. And so God says, if you wanted to manifest, you got to put in the work. You got to apply these spiritual laws and his natural laws for these things to be manifest. Mr. Roger.
So is it conceivable for us to think as believers that, you know, we have been in position by receiving, as you said, the manifold grace of Christ.
Uh-huh.
So at what point, from a leadership standpoint, from a ministry standpoint, where do we find ourselves with the responsibility for us providing this information, and then the responsibility of the individuals who we've been called to lead? How do we create that dynamic so that we realize that our gathering is for a purpose? And so how do we engage our audience to help them understand that they have a responsibility to go out, and I believe it's Matthew 28:19, to make disciples. They have a responsibility as well, not to eat as children of Israel did with the manna. And when they ate too much of themselves, they got sick because they were hoarding it too much of themselves when they were only told to get enough for that day. So how long, and I'm always sensitive to the best of my ability, but I see this dynamic happening so often from a cultural standpoint, as I've always wondered, why is it that no matter what city I go to, unfortunately, you can always know when you, for lack of better words, in the black area. How did that narrative become the reality in the year 2020?
Well, I think it's one young man. For me, you and I, is one man, one young lady at a time. You notice that all that happened before what we call the Great Commission took place. Jesus had made disciples out of those things. And so Jesus was making disciples who would make disciples. And so they had become disciples themselves. And God positioned Jesus in a position, put him in a position to get their attention. You see, Jesus was looking for a problem he could solve. And he saw the problem right in their eyes. And that thing became something that got their attention. He said, why y'all fishing over there on that side of the boat? Throw your net over here. And they had been fishing all night long and caught nothing. And when they threw the net on the other side, he saw the problem they had. And so as we go out with this message, we're solving a problem that people have. When people see little, what used to be barefooted Gerald Rogers rolling up in his Rose, you just say, wow, you got their attention. They see you, they come to the airport and see you flying on your private jet. You got their attention now. And so they're willing to listen. That's the same thing we see it in athletics all the time. People are willing to listen to LeBron James. Why? Because LeBron was MVP. When Miami was losing year after year, when the new general manager came in, Pat Riley, he saw the problem, and he got, 3 people come in to solve the problem. He got LeBron. He got the other guy who got sick. What's his name? The guy with the tall guy. And then he got those 3 guys. And they won 2 championships.
Chris Bosh.
Chris Bosh. Yeah, there you go. I got a Heat fan in the house. And so, he positioned, he positioned them where they could resolve a problem, because people didn't know Miami had a basketball team prior to that. And now you see those guys who played, they're making commercials. LeBron's still winning. He's influencing the protest, and he's inspiring people to vote. And so those people will follow him because he has experienced a success. Miss Dyer is a successful young woman. And so other young women, they want what she has. And they will follow her and they will listen to her because they want to know how she got what she has. And so, that's what we have to do. We have to model what we're talking about. And so this morning I started to put on some old raggedy jeans. I had to go out around election protection stuff. And then I had to change my mind and kind of fix myself up a little bit. So I put on my rattlesnake boots, a nice pair of slacks, and a shirt. And so now you look like what you're representing. And so we have to be careful that we represent what we're talking about, because people will mimic us. Ms. Dye talks about all the time how her daughter mimics her. She tries to train people because that's what she sees her mother doing. She's a little disciple.
Absolutely, Bishop. And I think, you couldn't have said it better. I couldn't have said it better, because as we go out and the things that we want to accomplish and the things that we want to see in other people, we have to make sure that that is what we're doing. We have to make sure that that is what we represent. And when you look at how can we ensure that other people are sharing this? That's what the personal development is for. Be Your Own Bank is so much more than just learning the skill set. We pour into, we're personally developing. You know, this is a movement, because there are some things that definitely have to be shifted. There are things that have to be changed. There are things that have to manifest in the lives of so many people. And when we shift that and we change that, so much is going to transpire, so much is going to happen. And so, like I said, I couldn't have said it better myself, you know, with what you're saying. And just like what Mr. Rogers just asked is, how do we ensure that they do it? We just have to keep telling them, because once they understand and they see, then they're going to get it, and they're going to believe in themselves. Then they'll understand that just to hold on to this information the same way they didn't know about it, it's really selfish not to share it. That's why we do what we do. It's so selfish not to share it. It's selfish not to expose. It's selfish for you to find something that will literally change your life. You're so selfish to keep it to yourself, because the same way it was hidden in plain sight, the same way we didn't know about it initially, the same way, I mean, me being a licensed financial advisor when I retired, and I always knew that there was something more. I always knew that there was something different out there, but I had to share this. I had to tell the world about it, because this is how things change. Everybody says they want change. Everybody says that they want something different. Everyone says that they want that shift. Well, you have to be willing to go out and be that change agent. We cannot sit back and wait for others. So regardless of what I'm doing, what Mr. Rogers is doing, what Dr. Bythwood is doing, what you're doing, when you grab a hold of this information, you grab a hold of this message, we have a responsibility to go out and share this information with the world.
That's right, Dr. Byfoot.
Yes, sir. Well, let me go back to something you said before, Bishop. You made a very good point about magic, and it was based on Miss Dyer's commentary that she is going to get up selflessly based on what it can do with the world. And you talked about the fact that it does take a work ethic, and it's more than magic. But when you said that, it made me want to share something with our listening audience that I think is interesting. You know, the wise men that went to Jesus and provided gifts, they were from the tribe of Magi. So abracadabra is a term that comes from that tribe. And Magi is where we get the word magical and magic. So you're right. God is not into magic, but magic comes from God. And when we recognize that that's the way that we can use the miracles that he has provided us to put ourselves in another position, that's the reason why this movement is so important. It's so important because we really have the ability to be the wise men and women and to take the gifts that we have and take them to Jesus's people. So to me, I was chuckling when you were saying that because it came full circle, a concept I never even thought about, that we really are the bringing the gift of the Magi, which happens to be one of my favorite Christmas books. So thank you for allowing me the opportunity to make that point.
I hear you thinking, Mr. Rogers.
Well, I mean, and I mean, when the Dr. Bythwood said, you know, being able to take the gift to God's people, and for me personally, that's why I'm so blessed to have this forum to be able to reach the people. And I think one of the tremendous gifts and assets that we have is obviously the voice and the wisdom that you have as an elder statesman, a bishop in the Lord's church, and a consummate businessman. And then the gift of a gentleman like a Dr. Craig Bythwood, who has a PhD in finance and economics. And it often is said that this world has purposely been made complicated, but the gift that he has, being able to take these seemingly complex terms and make it that a 6-year-old can run with it, and then the tenacity and the work ethic that Ms. Dyer brings to the table is just an amazing thing. And I love what you just said about being the example and giving people a purpose or a reason to emulate what we know that this gift is. So with that being said, here we are to our listening audience. We have already had the opportunity to participate, and our eyes have been enlightened. So I'm hoping and believing and praying that there's something that's drawing you to a place where you now begin to realize that you have the responsibility for your own nuclear families to be that bridge, to dig that well, so that, as the scripture declares, out of your belly shall flow rivers of living water. So I'm trusting and believing that you have now heard something or have been led to ask the question, what must I do to be a part of the largest economic empowerment movement in the history of mankind? And prayerfully, as we realize that you now, at some point, have to take action. You're in position, but now it's about taking action. And that action begins with you asking the question. And that question is, or answering the question, are you personally ready to learn how to be your own bank? And I want to take the posture and the position that the answer to that question is yes. So you have some documented individuals who can lead you to that path, who can put you in a position to experience the wealth that you deserve. You know, obviously wealth is a state of mind. So that's why we spent the last couple of segments, you know, getting you to think differently. Because when we begin to get you to think differently, then we know the steps and what's required are really actually the simplest part. So that's what my mind is thinking, Bishop. And any of our other want to chime in on giving some direction, I think that would be very beneficial to our listening audience.
Well,
There
thank
was
you.
a talk with, I'm sorry,
Go
go
ahead.
ahead, sir.
Go ahead, doctor. Go ahead.
There was a talk with the finance doctor a couple of weeks ago called Decide and Believe. And it was literally plucked from the story of Miss Dyer, where Mr. Rogers made some comments about her at the end of her training. And I took those comments and was led to tell her story in terms of, you know, this example that we have to decide and believe. So that really is the message that we have to send to our constituents and to those individuals that are future business partners of ours. We have to let them know that that's the one thing that all four of us have done. We made a decision and we believed. And so I think it is so paramount that we continue to send that message that those are the two necessary elements for success.
Yeah, and the thing that really jumps out at me about what we're trying to do, it shows you how everything is connected. You know, how what happens on the news, what happens in the schools, what happens health wise with our country, all impacts the financial well-being of all of us and our ability. And I think that's one thing that this virus has done, is showed us how everything is connected. One is connected to the other. And so if we're going to truly move forward and change our position in life, when we understand how things are connected, we're better able to navigate ourselves forward and just ask ourselves, you know, we have to be careful about one thing that I thought about what happened today. I was talking to a guy who worked for me. I have a little interest in a uniform company, and this guy's a salesman. I said, "Have you voted?" He said, "I'm going to vote today." Yes, he's 66 years old. And he said, "This will be my first time voting in my life." And so he said, "But I'm going to do it because I've been in a transition." And my partner looked at him and laughed. He said, "Man, I got out of jail in 1985 and I voted in 86. He said, "I don't know if I meet all those qualifications. Not, but I've been voting." And so you have to just make up your mind to take advantage of what's available to you and not wait till you're 66 to try to participate in the vast opportunities that are offered here in America. And sometimes, as you guys said, things are hidden in plain sight, and we don't understand the opportunities that are in front of us. And we ought to be like the young child in the first, second grade who's excited about learning, excited about discovering what this country has to offer, and being willing to jump in there and take advantage of it. Now, this opportunity, this has an opportunity to open up our understanding about how finances work, because the truth of the matter is the majority of us do not have a deep insight on how finances actually work, and how that the $9 trillion market stands still in the morning on an announcement going to be made at 8 o'clock, and we're up at 5, and the whole world stops to see what's going to happen, what the Speaker of the House is going to say, and get an understanding. All that's connected. You know, I was just excited, you know, when Miss Dyer broke that down the other morning, that the train is waiting on the speech. How does that work, Miss Dyer?
Wow, Bishop. Wow, wow, wow. So just from an understanding standpoint and just for a clarity standpoint, the market moves, and this is where the training comes in. I'm going to tell you that's where this comes in, this book, Be Your Own Bank, Hidden in Plain Sight. That's where all of that comes in, because it is all connected, as you said. And when you really, really think about it, and when you really, really understand the fact that the US dollar is the strongest, is that's what it is. It's the strongest. Everything is based off of the US dollar. And so when we really understand that paradigm, and then you're looking at the other countries too, right now we just have a political market. And that is, you know, why we want to make sure you understand the concept and you understand what's going on. And that's why the education is so important. You said something so key about education, and we have to be willing to make a shift. And then you also made a comment about, you know, not wait until you're 63. Well, one thing I do want to highlight is that at 63, at 4, at 83, it's never too late. So you did not miss the boat. You have not missed the mark. It's all about making a decision. You know, I think that's been the common denominator right now, is making a decision, because this information is here. The information is here for us. And you know, how the market moves, that's going to come with the education. How the market moves, that's going to come with you tuning in. That's going to come with you making that decision to be your own bank. Because I can sum it up in about 5 minutes to tell you that, you know, the US dollar is the base currency. That's the major currency pairs. But there's some education that has to come along with that. And that's what's been missing. That's what individuals have not tapped into. You think about, we're educated on everything, and you're talking about making a change, you're talking about making a difference. That's literally what we have not tapped into, is that part of the education, because we've been trained for a 9 to 5. We've been trained not to. How much did we learn about finances in school, unless you specifically took a course like a Dr. Bythewood? How many courses did you take on finances? You took none, other than counting money. You might have taken something to balance a checkbook, but that, even when I took those classes, those were electives. So we were taught how to get a degree, how to get a job, how to go work for someone else and build their wealth. But no one ever told us about the money. Even being a licensed financial advisor, you were told by someone like me that you have to buy it, hold it, and pray. And I mean, pray that it's going to stay at its peak and keep rising for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. When the reality is, once I realized it was more to it, that's why I'm here. Because this information has to be shared. This information has to be known, because banks, financial institutions, those who move the market, they literally profit on the movement. So yes, when it's selling, yes, when COVID hit, yes, when the market was crashing, we made a significant amount of profit because we had the information and the knowledge. And that's where you really want to position yourself, is to make sure you have that information, that knowledge, and that skill set, so it can pass through generations. And just like Dr. Bythewood talked about those cherry blossoms, that's what you want to share. That's what you want to manifest. That's what you want to leave in your legacy, is information, knowledge, you know, empowerment. That's where you want that shift to happen.
Amen. Amen. And certainly that book that you held in your hand, is that my copy?
Ha, Bishop, I got you.
Okay.
Right
Okay.
here. Be
Okay,
your
okay,
own bank, hidden in plain sight. You gotta
okay.
be your own bank movement.com.
Hey,
Order yours today.
I did it with my what do you call it? Apple Pay. I hit that little thing. They click twice. I hit it twice. It's like boom, boom, gone. Money was going out of my bank just that fast. And so I figured it went over to you because it went that fast. It went, usually you take a lady to snatch your money like that, just whoop, so fast, it was gone. And so, Dr. Rogers, how can people connect with us and be a part of what we're doing?
Well, several ways. I definitely want to share with our listening audience. We do have a website, all one word, BYOB.com. And on our information tab, you can fill out your information, put your name, address. And if you are a part of the listening audience, I need you to include Rejoice904.com. So we want to make sure that you acknowledge the fact that you heard about our movement via this amazing broadcast. So go to that website, BYOBmovement.com, fill out your information. Yes, we do need a good contact number because we want to make sure that someone reaches out to you within the next 48 hours. But we also want to make sure that you include that you heard this information through our broadcast, Rejoice904.com. And someone is going to be able to, kind of take you through this process because I think Ms. Dyer said something amazing about what we were all taught. We were taught how to go work for money, but in most instances, in our households and our kitchen tables, there was never a real conversation to ensure that your money was always working for you. And statistically, we understand this, that there's a specific reason why 95% of the population continues to fight for 5% of the wealth. As educated as we all are, many of you are been in the workforce. Many of you have your graduate degrees, your specialty degrees, but we're still operating from a vacuum of exchanging time for dollars. But then the converse of that is, why is it, no matter where we are around the world, that 5% of the population controls 95% of the wealth? It's simply because they've all been educated on how to ensure that their money is working for you. So that's why we encourage you to stay tuned into this broadcast, to go to that website, BeYourOwnBankMovement.com, all one word. Go to that information tab, fill out your information, and make sure that you let us know that you heard about this information via the broadcast by indicating Rejoice904.com. And that's how we can definitely make sure that you get the most accurate information so that your eyes can be enlightened. You can be in position and that we can teach you how to be your own bank.
Hey, man, that's wonderful information. That's so easy and so simple to do. Just click a couple of buttons and just ask for the information and fill out the forms. I mean, it could lead to your financial well-being if you just take a moment to do that. And you just ought to take the time to make sure that you make that happen. As soon as we're off the air, we want to make sure that we get contact from you and you want to share this. We talk about disciple making. You want to share these with people you have influence over, people who will call you in the middle of the night and say, I got a flat tire, can you come get me? And can I use your AAA for you to get me off the side of the road? Well, that's normally what I do. I don't even get up. I don't even get up. I got a little extra AAA, and so I said, give this man this number when he show up and you'll be good. And so he'll come get you and get you off the side of the road. That's what he get paid for. We don't want to mess up his money. We want him to make his money too. And one of the greatest conversational pieces I had today was people asking me what is hidden in plain sight. I was in the gas station. What is that? And able to spend a little time and get people interested in what we're doing. So if you want to get a hat or a t-shirt or something, when you go on that site, just make a little note to us that you want to get a hat or something that conversational pieces, I like to call them, that will ask people to ask you what are you talking about. And so that gives you an opportunity to share with people what we're trying to do and how we're trying to change people's lives. And within a few weeks, you will know how to, and if you follow instructions, you'll be in profit. And so We want you to take time to go through the process. Don't skip. Don't try to cheat. I remember we used to try to cheat, Mr. Rogers, in those 2-a-days in summer practice, and if you try to cheat, you catch up with you. You'll be one of those when the wind sprints increase, you'll be the one that's throwing up because you cheated when we were running 5 in sprints. Now we're running 15, and at the end of practice, and you can't make it. You're throwing up and cramping because you cheated. You didn't push yourself. And when the game time comes, and in South Carolina, it was warm the first 3 or 4 games of the season. And if you cheated in practice and didn't push yourself, now you're trying to go out there and give full speed. And you catch cramps and you can't stay in the game. You wind up sitting on the bench anyway because you cheated. And so let's go through the practice. Let's listen at the coaches. Let's do what they said and watch. We have success. And we want to. When you succeed, we succeed. When you achieve, when you bless you, we want you to bless your family. We give an opportunity for you to be a blessing to your whole community. And so we're excited about this opportunity to share with you today. And we want you to share with other people what we're talking about, encourage them to listen and encourage them to hear. And sometimes, I found out that Jesus said a man is not well received in his own house. So sometimes you got to get somebody else to explain what's going on, because they'll just say, oh, that's just old Joe. He grew up down the street. He don't know anything, because people don't believe that you can actually learn and surpass their understanding. So sometimes you have to have surrogates, and we have a process in place for somebody to be your surrogate and to share for you via Zoom, via telephone, and we'll make sure they get the information they need to hear so they can be education and they can move past those barriers of relationship and whatnot. We're just thankful for you listening. We're thankful for your willingness to learn. You got to be excited. Jesus says, except we become as a little child. The little child's excited about learning about anything. They sometimes they get in trouble. They want to know about cooking. They want to know about washing dishes. As much as we adults hate washing dishes, they want to learn how to wash dishes. They want to learn how to load the dishwasher. They want to know about everything. They want to help when you go take them shopping. They want to know. They want some of everything on the store. They want to know what it is. What is that? How does that work? And so we have to be that excited about this process that we understand that there's some information out there that we don't have all the answers to. So we're just thankful for you. How are we doing on our time, Ms. Dow?
Well, it is actually that time. And so I just want to make sure everybody orders their book, Be Your Own Bank, Hidden in Plain Sight.
Pull it over a little bit more, Ms. Dow, so we can see the full. That's beautiful. Isn't that a beautiful book? That looks good. That is a beautiful book with beautiful information. Now, not just for looking at. It's not just for looking at. I know some people, they buy books just to have them on the shelf so they can look like they're smart. Because I always say when I go to another pastor's office, I can see what he knows based on the books he has. If he's got a bunch of comic books in there, then I know he's not going to be saying much because he's depending on what he's not down the street. But if he got some heavy books in there, now I'm expecting a heavy sermon.
Amen.
Amen.
And that's why we wrote this book, Bishop. That's exactly why we wrote this book. So you can educate yourself financially. So, but I mean, that's it for our time today, ladies and gentlemen. BeYourOwnBankMovement.com. BeYourOwnBankMovement.com. Accept the challenge. It's your time. Accept the challenge to be your own bank. 1 million families financially educated and impacted. And ladies and gentlemen, that starts with you.
Amen. We want to thank Mr. Rogers. We want to thank Dr. Bywood. Brilliant gentleman. We just enjoyed you. You throw some wonderful seeds out there today, and we know the people have been blessed. God bless you, and we'll see you on next Tuesday at 5. Tell somebody about our show. God bless you.